My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Transformers. And this review will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But I have so much nostalgia for this movie. Like, just putting the disc in and watching the main menu brings back so many memories. I was obsessed with this movie as a kid. I rewatched it so many times and it introduced me to Linkin Park, and that was one of my favorite bands for the longest time. And I even bought the PS2 video game, and I actually remember it being very good. So, this movie was a giant part of my childhood, and I've rewatched this movie a few times since then, and it hasn't held up for me incredibly well. But on this latest rewatch, I liked it much more this time. It's still got issues, it's not perfect, but it's still a damn solid movie. So let's begin talking about the cast, and Shia LaBeouf is one of my favorite parts of this movie. Yes, he can be loud. Like, he yells a lot in this movie. He can be obnoxious. He can be very awkward, but he feels like a genuine teenager. He's very easy to root for, and he just carries this movie so well. I thought he brought more than enough personality to this character. Megan Fox looks great, clearly, but I think she does a perfectly fine job. She doesn't bring the weight needed. I wish she was more convincing in moments, but for the most part, she does everything she needed to. Josh Dumas, I do really like in these movies. I wish he had a bit more to do, but he makes the most out of it. Tyrese Gibson does a pretty good job. Rachel Taylor is perfectly fine. I just got issues with the character. Anthony Anderson is really going for it. He's loud, he's obnoxious, and I'm not the biggest fan of his character. I don't think he was needed. John Voight does a good job of selling you on the weight of everything happening. John Turturro, I thought, brought plenty of personality to this character. He could have been very forgettable, but he brings enough here. Kevin Dunn is actually really good here. Like, he is so convincing as Sam's dad. Everything he says and the way he says it, like, I totally buy it. And Julie White also does a very good job as Sam's mom. Like, she's a bit weird, a bit quirky, but still very convincing. And then we get the voice actors. Peter Cullen does such a fantastic job. He just personifies Optimus Prime so incredibly well, and he sells you on the weight, and his line delivery is just perfection. Hugo Weaving does a very good job as Megatron, but I feel like he doesn't really have much to do. Like, he's the big baddie, but he just kind of falls in the background. So the cast does a really good job. One more character I do want to mention is Bumblebee, because even though he only speaks through the radio and he doesn't have tons to say, I still thought he was filled with personality and character, and they really got me to care for him. So they brought that character to life perfectly. And Michael Bay just does a very good job directing this movie. Like, if I had to describe it in one word, it's epic. Like, this movie, script wise and direction wise, just has so much to it, and it feels huge. The scale of this movie is just perfection. Like, you really feel just how big these Transformers are, and you feel the weight of everything happening. The visual effects still look amazing. Like, this movie came out 17 years ago and it looks better than most movies nowadays. Like, the way the Autobots and Decepticons transform, it's just amazing work. It really is. But do you know what's even better? The sound. The sound just sells you on it even more. It's just perfect. I love it. It gives this movie so much personality. It really does. The score by Steve Jablonsky, I think, is iconic. He does a really great job. He brings emotion to this movie. He brings excitement, and he knocked it out of the park. The soundtrack is pretty good. Like, we've got Drive by the Cars, which was used really well. I'm struggling to think of other songs. Well, What I've Done, of course, which, like I said, I loved that song as a kid, and I still love it to this day. Some of the humor can be really good. I like how there's a scene where Sam's dad looks out the house and he's like, oh, there's a blue transformer out there, but he's talking about the electric box. When Sam tells Michaela there's more to her than meets the eye, I'm just like, okay, that's well done. And there's a few other scenes where I laughed. The action is a bit of a mixed bag for me because there are definitely great moments, and I'll say the action is consistently good, but there's always so much going on, and it is a lot of CGI, and watching Optimus and Megatron fight isn't as exciting as it should be. You know, it's like Godzilla and Kong in the New Empire. Like, the CGI is good and they're fighting, but watching two giant things fight just isn't the most exciting action to me, unless it's Pacific Rim. So yeah, the movie's well directed, and when it comes to the script, like I said, it still feels epic because there was so many characters and so much going on. Well, you just feel the weight. Like, it feels like a very serious movie, despite being very silly. So I'll talk about the Sam and Michaela storyline first. Well, I love this entire element of Sam buying his first car and it turns out to be a transformer. That's incredibly well done. And then how he gets to spend time with this girl that he's had a crush on forever. And I think the relationship is convincing enough. Like, it seems like Michaela's tired of the jocks and she's trying to go for a nice guy, but I feel like it's the events of the movie that really solidifies their relationship. It's because they're going through this together, and in that way, I can buy it enough. So, yes, Sam and Michaela's plot, very good. The military plot, I think, is pretty decent. It's got that good hook with Lennox wanting to be home with his wife and kid. And then we've got the military plot, which is good enough, does everything it needs to. But then the movie spends some time on these hackers, and I feel like this was so unnecessary. It just feels like a few extra characters for the sake of it. They don't really add or too much. They could have been written out quite easily, and I would have been okay with that. Because the movie is a bit too long, tighten it by like 10-15 minutes and get rid of that hacker plot, and I'll be much happier. But I still love how grand this movie feels. I like the mythology that's introduced, this backstory of the Autobots and Decepticons being enemies, how they're after the Allspark, and like they can shrink it, and how they're after it in the last act, and how it can turn anything electronic into like a Decepticon, brings them to life. That's a great element. I like the backstory with Archibald Witwicky and even how they set it up from the very beginning. So yeah, there's plenty to like about this movie. That said, I still feel like the writing could definitely be improved in moments. Especially the scene, well, Sam is running away from Bumblebee and then he falls and it just happens to be in front of Michaela and then she decides to follow him for whatever reason and I didn't really buy that. And then she sees Barricade and she doesn't really react and then like he's like saying get in the car, get in the car. It's trying to be this epic moment, but I feel like that works better at the plant afterwards. And they did it here first. And I don't know, that entire section just feels very messy to me. Like I said, the action isn't amazing to me. The movie is a bit too long. And I don't know, that's really all my negatives. Like I said, I know I've been harsh on this movie in the past, but my taste has changed, and I think it just delivers on everything you want from a movie of this type. It feels big, it feels grand, it's epic, so much going on, and it just feels exciting. The actual technical craft of this movie is beyond impressive. Michael Bay really does do a good job. The characters are likable and they're easy to root for, and there's enough of a human element. The humor works well enough. The action is exciting enough. My favorite part is when Sam's carrying the cube at the end getting chased by Megatron. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a very enjoyable, very solid movie. Doesn't get to greatness, but I'll still give Transformers a 7 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Transformers? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin, out.